we talk life, what makes it rich and worthwhile, the things that matter most, and the challenges we all face. All to answer one question: what makes life worthy? I'm your host, Amaris Gonzalez, and welcome to LifeWorthee the Podcast. Hey fam, welcome to another podcast episode. This week's guest is a longtime friend, Emelyn Guevara. Being the first daughter of her family, the first to graduate with a Bachelor of Science in Sociology, and the first to navigate adulting in this modern world, it's no wonder Emelyn's work has been dedicated to championing those around her. Recently, she has embarked on a new chapter of her career, focusing on recruitment with a strong emphasis on equity. Her passion has always been centered around providing relevance, resources, and support for individuals who are cultivating their personal development. Building a community of like-minded individuals dedicated to positively impacting others is a driving force in her life. As a child of immigrants, she deeply understands the importance of leading with her identity and creating an inclusive space where others can do the same, fostering healing from generational trauma. Outside of work, you'll often find her exploring various hiking trails, reconnecting with nature, and finding inspiration. She also enjoys experimenting with her cooking abilities, embracing both the triumphs and the learning experiences that come with it. Additionally, she finds joy in nurturing and witnessing the growth of her indoor plant collection. Emelyn is truly excited to share her story and to be the big sister you've always wanted. Let's get into it. Hey folks, welcome to the LifeWorthee Podcast. I am so excited to be chatting with our special guest today, Emelyn Guevara. And she is a longtime friend and colleague, I guess I could say, of sorts. No, can I say that? I don't know if I can say that.
Are we colleagues?
No.
Former?
No, we just went to school together, right?
Yeah, we're peers.
Peers.
College peers.
College peers.
And then you left me.
Nah, but you came to visit.
I did. I was like, I can see why she left my ass. I would leave too. I was like, ooh.
Yes. But yes, so we are college peers, and we're here to have a conversation like all LifeWorthee conversations, and we're going to dive into how we interpret life, what we can do to curate our life by design and on our own terms, and answer that tricky question: what makes life worthy? So I'll give Emelyn the floor, allow her to introduce herself, and then maybe we can just jump right into your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself and go from there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hi everyone, my name is Emelyn, M, because that's what I like calling me. I am originally from Somerville, which is a small little city outside of Boston. Lived there all my life. I now currently live in Connecticut. And that's my intro. That's okay. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, cool. So let's talk a little bit about who you are. Could you tell us about who you are leading up to Emelyn today?
Okay.
And your best possible summary.
You know, it's really funny. I feel like I'm writing a college essay all over again. But no, I love it. So I am the firstborn. I am the first daughter of my family. My parents are both immigrants. My dad is from El Salvador. My mom's from Guatemala. And they decided to plant themselves and grow their roots in Somerville, like I mentioned. I went to middle school there. I went to high school there. And then, I think with seeing the world, growing into it, I was like, I need to get out of here. I don't want to be in Somerville no more. But back then, going far meant only an hour out. Okay. Because more than an hour is intimidating. And that's what led me to attend college. I went to Worcester State, and that's where I met Amaris. And that was a whirlwind. It was definitely a culture shock. So I come from a city where you see diverse people, all sorts and shapes and forms, and then to go to a school that was predominantly white was like, oh, like you hear about it, but then when you see it and then when you feel it, that felt really different. And I struggled with that. I struggled with needing to kind of no longer have my parents around, that community. My parents are very religious, so I grew up in a very, very religious community. To kind of then go and explore the world on my own was really intimidating. I actually decided to get really spiritual my first year of college, so instead of partying and going hard on my freshman year, I decided to take a leap of faith and kind of follow God there. Did that for a year or so, but I don't think it worked for me, and that's a whole nother podcast if you'd like to learn about my religious world. But I think what it happened, it allowed me to kind of take a step back and be like, you know what, I need to go ground myself again. So I went back home. I decided not to go back to Worcester State, and I think that really allowed me to see like what's next for myself. I started working in retail because there's no other job to find but retail, and that really brought me to a space to kind of be like, all right, I don't want to be 40 hours on my feet all day, get paid minimum wage. It clicked. It was kind of like I can see why college is so important. And that motivated me to go back. So I went back my sophomore year, and then that accelerated my want and need to graduate. So I graduated. I definitely had to do summer classes to catch up, graduated, but I think the downfall of all that, and I wouldn't say downfall, I would definitely say the awareness of there are always going to be systems that are always happening. I knew the system of my family, my community growing up, and then I finally got caught up with university, what that system meant, how to finally make the 4 years happen and get the degree. And then I said, there's another system here, which is finding a job, finding what it meant then to build my own life. I was actually talking about this the other day, how we spend maybe like our first 20 years, you're kind of brought to the next thing. You go to first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth. You even can go to high school, right? All the way, you graduate. And then you're like, okay, what's the next thing to do?
What do I do? Like, what are the steps to follow?
Right. Okay. Usually people tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And now I have to make those choices. I chose to go back to college and I finished, great. And then again, I was caught up with the what is next for me. And believe me, my 20s were a whirlwind. I decided to get, yes.
Yeah, they were for all of us.
I was able to, get some part-times here and there. So I was working like 3 jobs at one point. No benefits, no nothing, but just wanted the opportunities to someone to believe in me, the ability to say that I can professionally grow, which I had that opportunity actually. I had the opportunity for someone to tell me you can, and we believe in you, and we're going to give you that opportunity. But like I said, my 20s were a whirlwind, and I dropped the ball on that, The best way to say it is like the universe is always going to give you opportunities. It's up to you to make that choice. And I made the choice to not take that. So I got fired. And I said, you know what? This is what it destroyed my life. Like, it felt that way. It was the first time where I really failed. And not that I failed my parents or my siblings or my cousin. No, I failed myself for the first time, really. And that really was hard because I grew up in I'll say a culture where like failure is not an option. Right. Failure is not something you can just experience and kind of grow. Like, if you fail, you're done. Like, it felt like that. Yeah. Right. But I made it. I'm still here. So, continuing to find the job that allowed me to, first of all, get benefits, get health insurance, which I did. I actually got a banking job. Okay. Because I said, hey, I love customer service. I've done retail. Let me do customer service. I hate banking. Not for me. Okay. Not for me.
At least you discovered that.
Yeah. And I also got fired from there. And so it was like back-to-back failures. years. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? This is it. Like, I'm just a loser. Like, I'm in my 20s. My life is over.
And never would I ever say this to her. Like, she is so dramatic. I feel like if we ever had conversations about these things, I'd be like, Emelyn, what are you saying?
And I'd be like, but I am. But I am.
And that's that thing when we're harder on ourselves than we are to others. And it's like, how do we navigate that? But I'll let you keep going.
Yes.
I'll let you keep going.
I was really in a very dark space at that time, to be honest. Mm-hmm. It brought me to invite things that felt comforting, but honestly were not allowing me to grow. Mm. It brought people that also, they themselves were, I want to say, stagnant in their lives. They were just kind of like, hey, life sucks, so let's just bullshit it. I hope we can swear. I just realized that.
It's okay. If I can bleep this out if we really need to. I'll figure it out.
So, you know, I was able to still kind of pretend. It was a lot of faking, honestly, because I knew that I refused to want to feel like a failure. I still had, like, I think when you hit rock bottom, you're like, well, at least I can go up from here.
Right.
But along the way, I was kind of picking up these other things to cope, because I really think the fear of failure really was still there. Like, I didn't like feel it or really try to understand what that really meant for me. Mm-hmm. So finally, I found a job that was really important to me. You know, it got me to go back to the kind of career I wanted, which allowed me then to find another job, et cetera, et cetera. This was actually, we're now like 2018, 2019.
Okay.
You know, looking back, I laugh because it's like, wow, so much has changed. But at the time, I was really sad. I was really sad, and I not only did I feel it, but my body felt it. Like, my body, I would be going to work on the bus. Like, I remember holding on to the bus, crying because of how unhappy I was, but I couldn't explain it to myself. Like, I just didn't understand. I just remember the tears coming down. I remember being at staff meetings, needing to go to the bathroom to, like, cry it out. Like, I would feel like even like nauseated at one point. And I'm at middle of work and just wanting the feeling of just wanting to like throw up. And I got really tired. I got really tired of just feeling that way. Again, I was still doing things and being with people that kind of was like, well, that's life. Just drink it away, or let's go do something silly and let's forget all about it. And I really appreciate that I had an amazing partner along the way too, which is like very supportive. Never judged me. Was, if anything, just wanted the best for me, but understood that I had to do that for myself. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna quit my job. I'm gonna figure it out. Luckily, I had a serving job that paid my bills. You know, it was scary because I'm here thinking I had to always go up, you know, back to that feeling of like, you only go up, you don't go sideways, you don't go down and then up again. And then COVID hit. COVID really was like
the trauma that we all experienced from COVID. COVID hit, and it really said, you know what, this is what you wanted, which was the opportunity to really take a mirror and look at myself and say, what is the next year is going to look like for you? I was also turning 30. So now we're in COVID. And I told myself, you know what, I don't think what I was doing prior, before serving, was for me. I didn't feel like it allowed me to truly be myself. I felt like I was just pretending, like, and I'll be more transparent and say, like, I was working with youth. And the whole reason why I wanted to work with youth is because I wanted to be a mentor. But how can I be a mentor if I'm not happy, if I'm not actually putting things in my life that felt
was going to allow me to grow and continue to break a lot of maybe of the traumas that my parents carried, right? Yeah. Like I finally broke the educational like roof, right? I finally received my bachelor's. No one in my family has done that. So now what we really were talking about was the emotional and mental capacity that my family has carried. And so I took some time during COVID to really look at myself, but that was not easy. That actually brought up something really deep, which was the fact that I was using alcohol as a way to cope. And it's one thing when you know, you say, oh, I could stop whenever I want. But when the people that love you are like, this is so bad that I have to step away, that's scary. When like the things that you've built, your foundation that you built to kind of sustain yourself is starting to crumble. You're like, whoa, like rude awakening. Right. But it was necessary. Okay. So during COVID, I actually decided to stop drinking. I have been 2 years sober since. And from there, I found people in my life too that wanted me to succeed. I found a career coach, but the career coach was like, you need therapy, girl. I'm not your therapist though, but I want to see you win. Yeah. Which brought me to my therapist, which then, you know, allowed me to kind of explore a little bit more of those feelings. So to do that and to then be able to kind of navigate now this new career for myself, I then got into recruiting. So why not get into the world after college, right? Which is finding a job and finding what career development looked like. So I've been doing that. It's about to be 2 to 3 years now. Very exciting. And you know, life also happens where, you know, me and my partner decided to now move out here to Connecticut so they can pursue their education. And that also allowed me to kind of continue pursuing my professional self. Yeah. So we're now here. And I think where I'm focusing my life is to be like, I don't want to be tired anymore about how sad I am, how I feel. But then that means I have to make the choices for myself. Right. And those choices have been a journey on its own. What choices really look like and the way I'm thinking about it is like, what is the perception I have around those choices? Yeah. And then the other is going back to being the first daughter of my family is I realized there's a lot of trauma in my family when it comes to how we see our culture and how we kind of put these expectations on our children. Right. And now I'm like, wait a minute, this is bigger than just me. Oh yeah. This is a system. This goes back to the system. This goes back to a system of where, you know, things have been put in place that sometimes it's really quick to point fingers at somebody else. Right. But to be able and privileged enough really to take a step back and be like, hey, there's something here. There's a pattern going on here. And that has negative consequences. Being able to be aware of that and be open about that is on its own kind of healing. Yeah. Has it been easy? No. I've had to also have really hard conversations with my parents around, you know, what is their expectation of their children? Right. Being the first, you know, I experienced a lot of the hard, like, you know, my parents were very disciplined, very overprotective. And then now I'm trying to understand, well, as immigrants, you know, what is their pain? What are the things they had to deal with? What are the things they didn't, right? Because they grew up in a whole different way than I did. Yeah. But also give them their flowers. You know, I was telling this to my fiance now that I could never leave the United States, go to a different country, learn a whole different language, not have one single idea of how to get my citizenships there. So not only was there a language barrier, but an opportunity barrier, and then still be able to get their citizenship, get their house, raise their children, and be still show love, be like present for their kids. I could never, but that's what my parents did. I think we sometimes get caught up, with this idea of like, I have my bachelor's, I have a diploma, I have all these credentials, but sometimes that can be seen in other ways. Yeah, and so trying to give my flowers to my parents, but also give my flowers to myself. Yeah. And I think what I love about my 30s, I don't know about you, but I love my 30s.
I love my 30s.
I hate my 20s.
The 20s, I can't even believe I had to go through that. It was necessary.
It was necessary.
It was necessary.
My 30s definitely are now
to get this kind of clarity. Yeah, I needed to go through
less of a beat. But it's now giving me the awareness to be like, okay, what are your choices? What are you going to be doing next? And so I'm hoping that my next step is maybe not towards my career. Maybe it has to do with the fact that I leave Massachusetts and it's Connecticut, or it's somewhere else that's not Boston. Maybe that's what I have to do. Yeah. And then also give the space for my fiance to do what he wants to do too, right? Right. Balancing that. So yeah, that's my story.
I was trying really hard to listen intently and not interrupt. If you heard a lot of it's because I'm taking notes, right? Because I have so many questions. Yeah. But okay, so here are the themes that I was hearing across this whole conversation. First of all, thank you for introducing yourself and sharing. I know that can be vulnerable, and your level of honesty was incredible, I thought. But I've heard this theme about systems, navigating different systems in your life, taking ownership of your choices, and then thinking of your community, whether that is like personal, internal community, like family, or external. And I think it's interesting that as a part of your own like inner work was you recognizing like the trials and tribulations of others, but also how their lives impact you and how you have to work through that. Like, it's not all about you, but it is all about you. It's one of those really layered kind of stories, which I found really interesting. And it sounded like you were going through so many different levels of vulnerability. Like, like the base level to maybe the most intense. And sometimes I think, me personally, the most intense level of vulnerability is that moment where you have to like be honest with yourself, and not just like honest, like I should have cleaned my room, like honest, like you had to look at yourself and really dissect yourself and say like, all right, you literally can make the effort if you want to. Your choice. You know what I mean? Yeah. So with all of that I just brought up, feel free to pick and choose what direction you want to go. But who did you have to be to become the Emelyn that you want to be now? Who was that Emelyn and what was her transition like?
Yeah. I have two responses to this. Okay. When I first thought about this, I think the person I wanted to be was who little Emelyn wanted to see. Like, I think about when I was younger, like the women I saw in my life. But unfortunately, they weren't what I imagined. Okay. That's not what I think, back culturally, right? I think a lot of the women that I was surrounding myself with, their goals were to be wives. Their goals were to be moms, that happened to work, that happened to do all these other maybe extracurricular things. So I think the person I had to become was what the little Emelyn always needed or wanted, because it was important for me to feel like who I have become, she was so proud of. Yeah. She was super excited about, or like, oh wow, like I want to be that when I grow up. The other answer to this was like, I had to, I forgot how to say it. I don't want to say I had to fake it till I make it, because that's not true. Faking it just means that is not a part of you.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is I had to be confident when I wasn't confident. I had to be I had to make sure I was fearless when I was shitting bricks. I keep swearing. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
I had to feel like that I had no doubt in my mind when I was super doubtful.
Yeah.
But that took time. That took a lot of that faking it till you're making it. But then I learned it's not about faking it. It's about the perception that you have. So how do you then tell yourself, oh, one day I'm going to be this certain thing? You have to become that.
Right.
You have to be that. You have to act like, I've seen a lot of TikToks because I'm in TikTok world. You have to be so like delusional.
Yes, I'm all about being Delulu to get to your Salulu. Like, let's do it. I need to be as delusional as possible because I will talk myself out of everything. I will talk myself out of everything.
And it's so uncomfortable. Let me just say too, like, it's not something that comes innate for a lot of people, because then when you do that, sometimes you've been taught that that's not real, or that's not how it's supposed to go.
Right.
There's a lot of people who don't believe in what you believe, that you sometimes believe what they believe. So to be able to be so connected with yourself and then say, okay, I don't believe this right now, but I am going to, is great. And let me also say too, sometimes it's a defense mechanism. I will name that. I remember in college, you know, I had the lowest self-esteem in the world, but I didn't need other people to see that. I did not want to see other people see me, because I was so scared that they were going to take advantage of me, you know, and then with time I was like, okay, cool. No, this thing it is a part of me. I'm learning to build it. I haven't been able to do so when I was younger. Yeah. Now I'm building this for my home. But life throws you harder situations where it'll test that, like, is this real? Is this strong enough, or is it gonna, like, suit, like, just tip you over kind of thing? Right. So I think the whole, like, wanting to be the little kid in me, the little kid for the little girl, little Emelyn, has come from a place of, like, I want to kind of have that conversation with her, because she has been the person that has held a lot of my pain. Right. How do I then tell her, like, you're worthy, like, you're worth love, you're worth being a responsible adult, you know, you're worth your beauty. Like, I've had to look at her to then say, like, okay, like, I might not feel pretty today, but I am going to take the opportunity to put the dress on, wear 7-inch heels back in the day. Because that's what made me feel pretty. And, you know, the world is really quick to tell you, like, the things you're not. And I had to be also brave when I didn't feel brave. Yeah. So that has been still growing and learning, and luckily, you know, I've had people who have cheered me on as well. Yeah. So just like there's people out there who don't want to see you succeed, find the people that actually want to see you and encourage you and challenge you. I know I've become the friend. I say this, so I've been saying this a lot more, where I'm like, I'm passionate and I might come off as aggressive, but I promise you I do it with love, because I want you to challenge yourself. I want you to grow. I want you to feel like you have somebody that's not judging you, but making you feel like, all right, you're comfortable. What's next? Is this comfortable or is this stagnant? Talk to me, like, you know? Right. And then just put that mirror up for you, because I think I would want that I want someone to do that for me. Right. I think it's not, you know, I have some friends that are like, okay, girl, and then I have some friends that are like, it's a lot right now.
That's a little, I'm gonna get back to you.
and I have to be okay with whenever you're ready, you know? But I do it with love.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. It's like they say, if who you're surrounded by is who you are, right? So like if you are not surrounded by folks who are pushing you or pushing themselves, can you expect that back? And then are you the person that people are surrounding themselves with? Right? Is that a thing? I'm loving every response you're giving me. I'm not even asking questions. Your storytelling right now, this is like more than enough for me. What I found interesting, and I'm gonna let you guys know, I did not tell Emelyn about my pinky promises for LifeWorthee, but let me just talk about them for a second.
Okay.
Because everything she's saying, basically follows like the LifeWorthee pinky promises. Think of those as like the 3 pillars for the platform. The first one is be vulnerable and honest. It's about being honest and vulnerable with yourself specifically and taking accountability for the impact you have on all situations. So it doesn't necessarily mean the situation is negative or positive.
Yeah.
It can be either or it can be very neutral, but that our choices really impact like how we're gonna feel or the direction we're going in, or like why certain things are happening. And so that one is the first pillar, being vulnerable and honest with yourself.
Yeah.
The second one is try and try again. And you basically you spoke about how you had to practice, like you fake it till you make it. You had to practice being confident when you weren't feeling confident so that you could become confident, right? Like these are things that you were trying and trying again until it felt comfortable. And that discomfort is a good thing. Most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time, so that we can move into the next phase of who we want to be. But then the last one was celebrate yourself, and you were saying that that's very hard. It's very hard. And so that third pillar is more of like giving yourself recognition for the work that you've done, generations before have done, and work that's going to be done, and like not just moving through a process without like recognizing those moments, because it's important. And I think that's what keeps you, that sustains you as you move through things. So I just want you all to know that already she's following the LifeWorthee pinky promises, and I need to have her back on here as often as possible. But
and I want to mention too, like, celebrating doesn't have to be this big hurrah, this big, like, celebrating could just be like, I buy myself flowers because I called the insurance company and they hung up on me. But I did it.
But you did it.
And it took me 2 years to call the insurance company to get the answers that I needed. You know, I sometimes cloud myself with assumptions. That I'm like, I prohibit myself from completing things. So then when I do it, and even if that meant I didn't complete it, I still celebrate that. I've been able to, you know, tell myself like, I did this certain thing, I'm gonna go get my nails done. Or like, I was so scared to schedule a time with my therapist. It took me a year to find, let's say, a new therapist, that happened. Like, I remember telling you, I found a therapist, but unfortunately, when I told them, you know, I think I'm an alcoholic, I think like I'm going to stop drinking, they told me, well, I can no longer be your therapist. That's not where my realm of expertise is. And that was really discouraging, but then I found a new therapist. And it took me like quite a while to do it. And when I did, I went to go to the movies. Like, that felt, or even telling people like, hey, this was such a big obstacle, and find the people to be like, you did it, but you did it. And you're not done though, right? Like it was just scheduling the therapy. Now it's going through the therapy.
It's going through it. But like you want to celebrate the steps. Like how do people build like $1 million businesses? If they focused on the big picture, I guarantee you they would have been overwhelmed. And like who's to say these businesses would exist, right? Folks are usually like, what do I need to do first? A year later, call my insurance company. At least you got it done. And like you're celebrating that step because before there was a mental block somewhere, right? And so you've overcome that, right? And that's important. And when you recognize those things that you think are little, they're actually huge.
They're huge. They're huge to you, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you can explain that to people and say, hey, I need you to like maybe keep me encouraged, you know. I hope you have those people or find those people that are going to tell you like, oh, you made a doctor's appointment on your own? Girl, you're adulting. Like, I would feel so excited.
You scheduled a doctor's appointment and girl, you're an adult.
I would feel so excited because I think what happens too is many of us also complete something. We hit a goal mark or we hit a big milestone in our lives and we act like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm just so tired of feeling like that's okay. Like, no, let's be able to really be able to know that there's maybe you're the first person doing that. You're the first person getting therapy. You're the first person maybe graduating something or get a certification. Like it does not matter. It's your win.
Yeah.
And there's people, and I'm very much about like who, you know, your ancestors and those who are living in your genes. Those people are cheering you on even if they're not existing right now. Think of those people if you need to, right? Yeah. Because it's important to know that like there's always something. If you tell the universe you want something, the universe is going to give you choices, and then you have to make those choices. But to be thankful, I think, is what the universe is always looking for, so it can continue giving you things. Maybe not the things you want, but maybe the things you need.
That part. Sorry, hit your hand.
It's okay.
Oh man, yeah, no, that's super important. That's super important. And like you just said, the universe gives you choices. If you made different choices, do you think you'd be like in an endless cycle? Do you think you would have eventually moved out of it? Or would you be like learning different kinds of lessons? Would you be a different Emelyn now if you made different choices?
You know, when you were talking about that first pillar about taking accountability, I think what I had to also learn was the fact that I think this also gets a little bit into growing up religious around like what is good choices and what is bad choices. Yeah. And sometimes that can even be correlated to like good and then like bad. And I don't know about you, but when I think of bad, I think of sin. I think of like
pure evil.
Make it go away.
Right. Don't.
You see?
Maybe evil wasn't the right word. That feels intense, but I get what you're saying. Yes. Like, not allowed.
Sometimes when we think of bad, we're just like, oh, that we can't associate with that. That's not part of me. Or like even some shame. Yeah. I've definitely had a lot of shame on my bad choices. Okay. And I think what I've had to really learn is that those bad choices are still a part of me. Yeah. They're still the good and the bad. If I'm always like looking at the good and it's like, oh, that's only me, kind of like what people do on social media, they only show the good. Yeah. But we also need to embrace the bad. And the bad doesn't mean like, well, it doesn't mean like you're gonna be evil or anything. I think what you have to really think about is like the bad being, where does that come from? Right. Why were those choices made? Where were you in that mindset when you were making those choices? And what can those choices teach you? Yeah. And sometimes maybe you're not even ready for the lesson. Yeah. And that's why we continue making bad choices. Yeah. And that's okay too. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Too. It's the ability though to be like, this is still who I am. If we are able to accept the good part of ourselves and also the bad choices that we make, how much more confident and being able to take more accountability of that. Yeah. And I think that's super, I don't know if like that's like, as like, you know, as an adult, you know, that's kind of what you're trying to navigate through is understanding that there's going to be amazing choices you make in your life. Right. But there's also going to be bad ones. And what we do with those bad ones, are we going to sit there and be like, let's blame other people? That wasn't me. That's what I was doing when I was younger.
That's like a normal response when you're young. Yeah. You're just like, it wasn't me. It was because of this. The dog ate my homework. Like, whatever.
Or, you know, like, it was the economy. Or, like, capitalism. That tends to be how I blame everything.
Like, capitalism. That's got to be what's all my problems are.
Exactly. Yeah. But we're a part of that. Yeah. I am a part of capitalism, right? I participated on it every day. Let's be real here. So to be comfortable with the fact that, like, you know, I think back when I got fired at like I was able to say, you know what, if it wasn't for me getting fired, that would have not pumped me to get to that opportunity of going back to my career and what I was looking for. I bet you that if I took that job, I would have not been so appreciative of it.
Yeah.
Than like when I did get fired and had to kind of bring myself back to it.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I carried that shame. Mm-hmm. I carried a lot of that shame. But now I use it as a learning lesson. If anything, I tell others, right? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, these have been my failures. And believe me, at the time, it felt like the world was going to end. But now it's like, wow, look how far you've come.
Yeah. Look
how far those bad choices and accepting those bad choices in your life really have allowed me to say, I am going to make bad choices.
Yeah.
I don't know everything.
Who does? I tell my son I know everything, but that's a different, I have other reasons.
You have to do that.
Yeah. I have to do that. I have to.
Wow, Emelyn made some great comments on choices and ownership, especially alluding to the fact that owning your choices allow you to steer your life's path. With that said, I wanted to share this quote. You either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside your story and hustle for your worthiness. What do you think about owning your choices? Share with us. Tag us at LifeWorthee on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, and share your thoughts. Thank you for this podcast moment. Back to the show.
So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's super insightful. And it made me think of too. So when I was in therapy, my therapist used to tell me, like, what are you feeling in your body when you are thinking about X, Y, and Z topic, right? Mm. And I would either feel stress, like in my chest, tension in my arms or something. Mm-hmm. And she was like identifying how my body is telling me something is wrong. Mm. And so like sometimes these bad decisions happen and we feel it emotionally, we feel it physically, but we can't name it. And so that was like part of like why developing through that kind of growth was really hard as a young person, because I wasn't thinking my body's telling me something's wrong. I was just stressed and I didn't understand. Yep. And it was everyone's fault. it was alarm didn't go off. I don't know anything. Yeah. But one thing she did say was, instead of responding so quickly, to pause and to be curious about what that is. And I noticed you were doing that naturally. You started asking yourself questions like, oh, if I'm feeling like really stressed in this environment, why is that? Yeah. What am I surrounded by? Or what decision did I make to get me into this environment? Yeah. Or how do I move out of this? And so I started implementing that into just how I'm moving, and there's just this lightness now because I built an awareness, and it forced me to be honest with myself without being as emotional. Like it was more like logical, like what are my surroundings looking like? How did someone's tone just sound to me? Was I receptive to that? Was I not? Things like that. Yeah. So I think it's cool that you mentioned that, because it was like a really good practice for me, and it sounds like something you've worked through also. Yeah. So I thought that was great. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to add before I ask you one last question?
No.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. So I'm going to ask you this one question that I'm asking all of our guests on the podcast. So Emelyn, what makes life worthy?
When I was in my early 20s, I used to hate those like older people. They have great like these phrases, like they would always throw knowledge on you. And the one that used to, oh my God, I used to hate was like, this too shall pass. Oh, I hated that saying.
That's a hard one to hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I get it. Like, this too shall pass. When I got engaged, great, amazing, but that too shall pass.
Right,
you know?
Right.
I struggled really hard, trying to maintain sober and rebuild not only my friendships, but the people I put myself around with. That first year was so hard. That too shall pass, and it life makes you life is so worthy because, first of all, I have the privilege to do so in ways that a lot of people can't. So that, right? I come from two people that all they wanted was their kids to be happy.
Yeah.
And I've been able to practice that. So I feel so privileged in my life to be able to do so. And also be the person that wants to be like, you know what? My families and generations of chains of trauma that they've been carrying, that I can sit here and say, you know what? Let's heal from that. Not everything, but as much as I can, right? Yeah. To make maybe the future generations not continue carrying that. That's worth it.
Yeah.
And the good and the bad. And I'm practicing, listen, this is, when I say I was such a pessimistic person back early in my 20s to now be like, this too shall pass and it's okay. Like the good and the bad. I need the good for the bad and I need the bad for the good. To be able to kind of continue developing my awareness around how I can continue healing for myself and for others, how I can continue growing with my partner, and then being able to still find happiness, right? Yeah. And that saying is allowing me to say, you know, there are only moments in life that, and maybe at that moment you have extreme emotions around it, but it's going to pass. And there's always going to be something else, a new feeling, a new thought, a new way of being, really, right?
What a relief to know that this too shall pass. Life truly gives us opportunities to start again or even continue forward movement, right? Is life a series of moments that pass us by? What's your take? Tag us at LifeWorthee and share your thoughts on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. Back to the show.
I think about when we first met and where we were just so full of excitement.
Yeah.
Not saying that we're not excited now. We just need a little nap before we get excited.
Maybe one or two.
but to say like, okay, you know, like let's take this chance to sit here and have this conversation and be so excited that we went through a lot of things together. We did a lot of things on our own, but to still come, like, I guess, home and to still feel grounded and the ability to have these conversations. And I think the reason why you have this is because you want others to be like, yo, you're not by yourself.
100%.
That thing, that feeling, the thought that you had, that you think that you've been in the ground, like the bottom of the dirt, like I've been there too, in my own ways.
And all in our own ways, but we've been there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what makes life so precious, is that so many people have their own version of what life is. Let me hear what you have to say. What is your story? Where are you coming from? Why is it like that? And then learn from that, or maybe take a little nugget of that and continue my life. And I think I'm really excited for my 30s. I'm really excited for, honestly, getting older. Yeah. Because I want to be wise. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I have some grays.
I have a couple I saw, and it's like the locks are covering.
But I'm excited for them. I see my grandma. My grandma has, like, amazing, like, this, like, white hair in the front, like, this big patch. And I'm like, that is all her life experiences in her head. And it's her crown, right? And like, to want to see all the people around me just find happiness and also go through their own life journeys, like, that's what's worth it for me. Like, to share that with others. And I hope, you know, people who are watching this, is that I know what it's like to maybe not find community, but this is it right here. You have people who all they want to do themselves is find community as well. So I think that's what life is worthy of, the ability to come into this reality and find others who want to connect with you. And I think, wow, what an interesting way of experiencing this reality, this dimension.
Yeah,
like, I'll go there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it all. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Everything that you said was super insightful, and I'm really impacted by your thoughtfulness about how to navigate life through this lens of systems and unpacking like generational trauma and like external, internal like conflict. And then of course building community, and I think that's beautiful. I think it's important. That's the reason why this entire platform is here. It's to build community. It's not for me, it's for us. And I think we can all learn and grow from stories like Emelyn's right here, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah.
So if you want to find Emelyn on social, she's on Instagram only for right now. Emelyn, where can they find you?
At Emelyn, so EHMEL. No, that's not how it goes.
Well,
EHMEHLEN. That's how you know I'm horrible with putting myself out there. But
she did it, right? Can we celebrate that moment?
Yeah.
That's a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm on this journey right now, finding a new community in my 30s. So if anybody out there wants to connect, social media, I'm for it. You know, that's okay with me.
Cool. Yeah. Well, until next time, folks, that's a wrap. Bye. Clearly, Emelyn is a natural storyteller. She truly led the conversation. I appreciated her vulnerability and willingness to express how she's navigated life's many ups and downs. I loved her perspective on what it means to own your choices and confront generational traumas while moving through life's many systems. I admire her approach in conquering internal struggles, especially as that has led her to a thriving and supportive community. She is a pillar in failing forward, redefining true success, reminding us all that this too shall pass. Emelyn shares a sense of groundedness, understanding that as one door closes, the universe opens another. I am excited to see Emelyn grow and build in community, anxiously anticipating the doors that will open for her. And of course, follow her on Instagram to stay connected. And with that said, I want to say thank you to the LifeWorthee fam for listening, and stay tuned for more from LifeWorthee the Podcast.